How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the best tips on how to lose fat backed by science. I'm Brendan Martinez. I am getting my doctorate in physical therapy currently, and in today's video we're going to go over 3 tips that are going to increase in importance. So make sure you stick it out till the end of the video, because that last tip could be the difference between you losing fat or staying where you're at right now. Alright, first things first, let's talk about diet. This should be of no surprise to anyone that this is on the list, and diet is a super important factor in actually losing weight. Now, just a disclaimer, I'm not a nutritionist, but we are going to be going over a few key principles that are applicable to anyone. If you have any questions, I would highly recommend following up with a nutritionist. They can give you a meal plan and further answer those questions that I may not be able to answer myself. So regarding diet, let's talk about a caloric deficit. So what is a caloric deficit? Essentially, a caloric deficit is you are consuming less calories than you are expending throughout the day through exercise and your activities of daily living. There are many ways that you can figure out what your recommended caloric consumption should be. There are many calculators out there. I will include a link to the Mayo Clinic's calculator in the description below, so you can go ahead and figure out what you should be consuming daily. Once you have that figured out, we should aim for 200 to 500 calories less than whatever that recommendation is. The goal behind this is we want it to be sustainable so you can continue with it and not quit after a week. As you become more comfortable with this concept, you can start implementing healthy foods to supplement the foods that you are currently having. Another amazing resource and something that I use pretty regular is an app called MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal allows you to track how many calories you are consuming daily. It also provides you with the macros that you're consuming. So it provides you with your carbs, your proteins, your fats, you name it, it's on there. MyFitnessPal is also great because it has an in-app weight tracker that you can put in daily, so it will track your progress throughout the days, throughout the weeks, throughout the months. And it also has a goal that you can set for how much weight you want to lose weekly. I would recommend starting with 1 to 2 pounds. Once again, we want it to be sustainable. Implementing these 2 principles is going to put you on the right track to finally losing that fat that you've been trying to for so long. And if you incorporate this in conjunction with the next 2 principles I'm going to talk about, I guarantee that you will finally start seeing progress. Alright, next let's talk about exercise. Now this is my wheelhouse. This is obviously something I'm very trained in, and there's a common misconception that you can only do cardio to lose weight. Now, while doing cardio to lose weight is phenomenal, and there's so many benefits, heart health, improving your lung capacity, you name it, it's beneficial. But there is that common misconception that doing resistance training isn't really going to do much. This could not be further from the truth. Resistance training is amazing, and it allows you to work multiple muscle groups and put on more muscle and ultimately burn more fat. When performing resistance training exercises, it's important to implement compound exercises. So compound exercises are when you work multiple muscle groups, like I mentioned earlier, at once. So an example of this is squats. Squats are a phenomenal exercise, not only because they're functional, but they incorporate your glutes, your quads, your core, low back musculature, everything. So you are working many muscle groups at once, and ultimately you're going to be burning more calories. Compound exercises are amazing because they're going to increase your heart rate, help burn fat, but it's also going to increase your muscle mass. So why this is important is because increasing your muscle mass is also going to increase your resting metabolic rate. Essentially, that's a fancy term for how much fat you are burning while you're completely resting. Increasing your resting metabolic rate is essential for fat loss and for overall health in general. Your resting metabolic rate even includes your sleeping. So I mean, you can imagine just how important this is. I would highly recommend getting on a well-built fitness program that not only eases you into exercise if that's something that you haven't done before, but includes many compound exercises and resistance training as well. If you incorporate resistance training along with the diet changes that I mentioned earlier, you're going to be on the right track to finally losing fat. Alright, lastly, and arguably the most important, is cardio. So, jumping back to what I said, cardio is very important, but cardio is often done wrong when trying to lose fat. A lot of people think that you need to sprint, you need to train at very high intensities to lose fat. And while this is true to a certain degree, you are burning more carbs than fats. This leads me into my final point, which is low intensity, long duration exercise. When you perform this type of cardio, you're going to be using 70 to 80% of fat to fuel that exercise. Versus when you're doing high intensity cardio, you're using 70 to 80% carbs to fuel that exercise. So you can see the difference already just in high intensity versus low intensity. Okay, so how do you perform low intensity, long duration exercises? So the first thing we're gonna need to do while exercising is calculate your heart rate. Most machines have a built-in heart rate calculator, which is phenomenal. But if you also have any kind of smartwatch, this will do it for you. When performing this exercise, your goal should be to be within a 50 to 60% of your heart rate max. Once again, similar to the caloric consumption calculators that I mentioned earlier, there are numerous calculators for your heart rate max, and I will leave a link to one in the description below. Now, the difference between low intensity and high intensity cardio exercise is while you are using 70 to 80% of fat to fuel your exercise, because it's at a lower intensity, you need to increase the duration, hence the long duration part. I would recommend aiming for about a total of 30 minutes a day to start out. Once again, we want to make sure that this is sustainable and realistic for you. If you have more experience with exercise, you can increase how long you are performing this, but starting with 30 minutes is a good start. Feel free to implement any breaks that you need as tolerated, but try and jump back on and continue your cardio as fast as possible. You can do low intensity, long duration exercise through any type of cardio. You can use a stationary bike, you can use an actual bike, you can use an elliptical, a stepper, walking just out in your neighborhood, you name it, you can do it. My personal favorite is the stepper, and this is something that you see a lot of bodybuilders doing. The stepper is going to recruit more musculature and more muscle groups than some of the other exercises that I mentioned. Similar to what I mentioned with the resistance training, you're going to be burning more fat when you recruit more muscle groups. Once again, this is by far the most important, but implementing all three of these tips that I gave in this video is going to put you on the right track, and if you're consistent and you give it your all, promise you, you're going to start seeing progress. So to recap, diet, resistance training, and low intensity, long duration cardio are going to be the three best tips on how you can lose fat. And ultimately, consistency is key. Make sure you ease yourself into it. Don't start full blown, go to the gym for 3 hours. It has to be realistic, but also maintainable. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe and follow for more fitness content. Drop a comment down below on what videos you want to see next. Similarly, if you have any questions regarding what I talked about today, leave it in the description below and I will try my best to answer it. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day.